What's good, YouTube? This your boy Uncle Dick coming to you from New Orleans, NOLA, the NO, the Crescent City. Yeah, that big easy, baby. And today I got some content for you. But before we get into all that, I'm gonna need for you to smash that like button. I'm talking about absolutely assault that thing. Click on subscribe and tap that bell notification so you'll be aware of all the videos that I'm putting out. And also, I'm gonna need you to share this one, bro. Especially if you are a survivor of Hurricane Katrina, you've been through Hurricane Katrina or anything like that. I'm gonna need for you to share this because this little agenda that's being pushed is absolutely insane to me. Granted, I watched this video already. If for all those, my last video was about Jalopy Bungus and his call to boycotts Drake's Iceman album, media blackout on Drake's Iceman album, his call for that, which I didn't take offense to. He's within his rights to do whatever he feels the need to do, but it seems to me that he's recruiting. He's recruiting, and he may say one thing that he's not bothered by uh anyone reacting to the album, but the actions of his fan base, his core supporters say otherwise, and that's because he cultivated that kind of environment. This particular video, he tried to tie in uh hip hop and Hurricane Katrina, and I felt as though that was very disingenuous. Um, I felt as though it was pandering, engagement farming, the whole 9 yards, propagandistic, the whole 9 yards. And it was absolutely disturbing, disgusting, and I am legit angry about it as a person who been through the aftermath and the rebuilding and the whole 9 yards following Hurricane Katrina. And this is the 20-year anniversary coming up of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was 20 days after my 20th birthday. And now we're coming upon the 20-year anniversary of it. So it's almost like this was like some ordained thing for me to do, which is I just thought about that and it's weird. 20 days after my 20th birthday, and now we're at the 20-year mark, and I'm finding myself having to address a person trying to use the trauma that my people went through to push an agenda, and it's insane to me. And let's just get into it.
So there's this new documentary on Hurricane Katrina called The Race Against Time, right? And they're calling it a re-examination of what was going on during Hurricane Katrina, and especially the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And what that goes to show you is that the way it was covered in real time did not reflect what was actually going on in real time. And one thing that I learned talking to people about this documentary is that the things I thought were public knowledge.
Were you talking to people who consumed this documentary, or were you talking to actual survivors of the trauma that was Katrina? I'm just asking.
Are actually not public knowledge. The things that I thought were normal and regular for people to know are actually things people didn't even know until this documentary came out.
I'm calling cap. I'm saying that you didn't know also until this documentary came out. Homie, I don't know how old you are. I don't. I wish I knew. I wish I knew how old you are. But I know for a fact that you're younger than me. You see, Hurricane Katrina happened when I was becoming and a man. I was going from adolescent into manhood. You know what I'm saying? So that's imprinted on my brain. That's a very significant start to adulthood for me. Very significant. Let's continue.
And that's not to say I know everything about Hurricane Katrina, but that's
You know little to nothing about Hurricane Katrina until you watch this documentary. Let's get that clear. You're capping.
to say that my perspective was so much more nuanced on Hurricane Katrina.
You're lying. You didn't have a nuanced perspective on Hurricane Katrina before this documentary. Stop the cap. See, you could pull a wool over your eyes, over the eyes of your followers, the cult that you're cultivating. You can pull the wool over the eyes of those people. Most of them are females, and no disrespect to females, but they're easily manipulated through emotional stuff like this. That's a given. You not pulling the wool over the eyes of a 40-year-old man who's got responsibilities, married with kids, homeowner. You're not pulling the wool. I've seen too much. Katrina being one of those things that I've seen. Katrina forced me to grow up faster than I probably would have. It forced me to take on responsibilities faster than I probably would have. I had to go back to my home that was flooded with 8 feet of water to rebuild, homie. Just breaking into manhood.
And a lot of people because I grew up listening to hip hop. I still
Because you grew up listening to this don't got nothing to do with nothing. Hip hop ain't got nothing to do with your perspective on Hurricane Katrina. Hip hop didn't give you no special insight into Hurricane Katrina, dude. Stop the cap. You're lying, dude. You're grifting right now, and I hate that for you. And I hate that for the people who are sitting there putting you on this pedestal like you're some kind of hip hop Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. You're a grifter, and I'm calling you out on it, homie. Stop playing with us. Stop using the trauma of my people to push your agenda.
remember the first time I ever heard Changes. I was hella young, bro. And listening to this song and listening to how Tupac was so able to articulate my reality at that time, it really put a brand new perspective of this world for me. It gave me a brand new awareness. I get that that's why people say that kids shouldn't be listening to the music, but I completely disagree. I think songs like Changes are reality checks for people of all ages so that you're not under this idea that everything that's going on in this world isn't connected to the greed and the people in power wanting to dominate.
Look, I'm sorry. Um, though I agree that certain hip hop songs do have a place in rotation with stuff, I do believe that kids can learn from hip hop. I do, like Atlanta, for example, they got kids learning how to make beats and stuff. Like at an early age. That's why a lot of those Atlanta producers are so advanced. When you hear Atlanta producer, they come out polished because they've been doing this since a child, and they've been learning that craft since a child, right? I think that certain lyrics from certain artists can be broken down, but hip hop is not to be consumed by kids that pretty much don't even understand it at the time. And I don't maybe you're some kind of savant, right? Because even as an adult, you know what I'm saying? I would listen to songs from the past that I heard as a child, and it finally clicked after 30, 35 years. Because at the time in which I listened to it, it was just words to me and it sounded cool. It sounded cool. So unless you're one of those parents that's sitting there breaking every doggone bar down to your child, that they probably won't even get even if you break it down. And not to say that kids are stupid, kids are sponges, and that's the problem. That's why you can't let kids consume just anything. Until you have children, and I don't know if you do, but until you have children, you have no authority to make this statement, Jalopy Bungus. Stop grifting.
That's what all of this comes down to. And when I hear bars like they got money for war but can't feed the poor, it gave me the idea of the reality that I actually live in. And now it was reality where because I was poor, because I didn't have a whole lot like somebody in the middle class or somebody who was rich, that I was deemed lesser to society. And therefore, my life did not have as much value to society as somebody else value would have had. And when you see the type of trauma that inflicts on people, right? You start to understand that the very culture that we create, this American culture that we've created, is very sick. You see what I'm saying? Now, we all know about when Kanye West went on television and said that George Bush didn't care about black people, right? But that over time has become a clip, right? A clip of the actual 1 minute and 30-second conversation that he was having with America on television. And the one thing that people don't talk about enough is when Kanye said they had permission to shoot us, that they were giving permission to shoot us. And what I
First of all, that's not a lie. I'm not gonna say that that was a lie, right? Um, but I don't think no one was given permission to, you know, not from no government entities, not from no local government, federal government, state government. That wasn't a thing. Maybe you had some rogue, uh, racist state police chief that may have done that. There was an incident on the Danziger Bridge where someone was unalived, but that's not totally true. This is Jalopy Bungus engagement farming and basically doing what he does best, and that's grift. It's not an egregious example because Kanye did say this, but it is what it is, dude. You don't know about Hurricane Katrina, dude. You come
mean
on.
by that is the people that were in trouble, the people that had just got hit with a catastrophic storm that they could not predict, that they did not see coming, and that they were just trying to survive, right? If you were trying to get over the bridge, or if you were trying to put yourself or your family in positions to survive by going through certain checkpoints or whatever, the people that were guarding these checkpoints were given permission to execute you.
That is not true. That is not true this is hyperbole. This is not true in the way that he's saying it. This is not true.
They were given permission to execute you. If you don't know this, if you don't understand this and start to learn early that the people that you are dealing with do not see you as human beings, the longer it takes for you to understand that, the longer it takes for you to accept your reality, and the longer it takes for us to start making and taking action that is going to allow us to flip the script. You see what I'm saying? Or at least create a society or a way of being where everybody gets.
And what exactly does this have to do with hip hop, dude? I'm still waiting. Because you saying that, oh, I had this nuance, I knew all these nuances about Hurricane Katrina and the stuff I was seeing, nobody else was seeing because I'm so in tune with hip hop. Dude, stop it. Stop it. It's weird, dude. Stop using my people's trauma to push forth your religious political agenda to politicize and make a religious cult following in hip hop because it's weird. It's weird. It's uncalled for. And dude, hip hop is also supposed to be fun. It's not all about having the damn Def Poetry Slam. It's not all about that. It's not all about breaking down bars and stuff. It's not all about that. Hip hop is supposed to be escape at times from the trauma in which we're going through. Hip hop is supposed to be a voice of the things that people have gone through to bring awareness to it, but it's not necessarily supposed to be politicized in the way that you're trying to do it. We have a place for everyone in hip hop. We have a place for the poor righteous teachers. We have a place for Public Enemy. We also have a place for Ice Cube. We also have a place for Tupac. We have a place for Drake, whether you believe it or not. And we have a place for Kendrick. There's a place for everyone. And you're trying to make it this exclusive cult, this exclusive entity in itself. And it's disgusting.
And deserves to have, where there are no have-nots. You see what I'm saying? And hip hop, right? And being hip hop and what that means to the artists and what that means to the people who grew up in this culture, at its core, it's about saying what you want to say and not allowing censorship to stop you.
Because just like the United States government is not telling us the truth about what happened on 9/11 September 2001, they're not telling us the truth about what happened to those levees in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina did not destroy New Orleans. It was the breaching of the levees that destroyed
It was the breach of the levees that destroyed New Orleans.
That's what this is about. So whenever we are fighting censorship, there's a bigger conversation there. Yeah, you know, the whole situation where Pusha T is talking about censorship and this song couldn't come out because of this. People are looking at it as just like some music, but no. When you're able to censor hip hop, you're able to get away.
Dude, it's some music shit. That's all it is. It's not nothing. It have nothing to do with nothing else. It's just music. It's just music because at the time, Drake was a cash cow and they didn't want to bring damage to the cash cow. That's why Pusha T wasn't allowed to do that. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing else. It's strictly about the music. It strictly was about protecting Drake at the time. At the time. That's all. Because Drake, they had just invested money into. Drake was an investment, and UMG did not want to damage their investment. It had nothing to do with nothing else. They don't care if Pusha T says anything. They just didn't want Pusha T to say something about their investment. That's all. What are we doing?
With a lot in this country, if hip hop is not the check on power, you can get away with damn.
Hip hop has never been a check on power. Never.
Near anything. And hip hop at its best and at its most prominent, at its most influential, is uncensored. And it's a check on the powers that be.
Give me an example. Give me an example of a rap song that changed something. That changed a policy. Give me an example. You can't give me an example. Give me an example of a major artist going down to Congress to push forth legislation and actually getting it through. Give me that example. You can't do that. Because hip hop is not as political as you're trying to make it out to be. You grifter. You're lying right now. Or you're being very disingenuous or misinformed.
It's a check on propaganda, and it's a reality check for people who want to ignore what the lower.
It's a check on propaganda. So you say something in a rap song and who? Just your fans hear it. So how is that? Because rap songs that actually push forth agendas, rap songs that actually make political statements, they don't get radio play. They don't get radio play. So the masses don't even hear it. So what good is it if your niche fans only hear it? Dude, this dude's a loser. Yeah, Jalopy Bungus, you're a loser, dude. I'm starting to think that you're mentally ill at this point. I am really starting to think that you have a mental illness.
Class has to go through. Even if we talking about Lil Wayne, which a lot of people thought he would have a more prominent and like straightforward response early, especially considering the Carter 2 came out right after Hurricane Katrina, right? But he still had his song George Bush, where he talks about people saying they heard explosions before the levees broke. That they heard explosions. And that creates a whole different conversation. Even if he's not bringing you directly to the answer, it creates awareness and people start to ask questions.
I am not denying that they heard explosions during Hurricane Katrina. I am not denying that. For those of you who don't know, the 17th Street Canal, that's in that's the if you're from New Orleans, you know about Cross the Canal. So Cross the Canal is the lower ninth ward. That's where the levees broke. But with a lot of and it's quite possible that the levees were blown up. Me personally, I think that did happen. But the reason I think that it did happen, um, is not necessarily about them trying to kill a bunch of poor people, right? It was a mandatory evacuation for Hurricane Katrina. Not everybody was able to get out because everybody did not have the means to get out. Fortunately, I had the means to get out, but that don't take away from what I went through after Katrina. That don't take away from what happened post Katrina when we had to go and rebuild. See, but a lot of people don't understand, and I know you don't understand this, Jalopy, being in Arizona and not really having to deal with this situation. We have what they down here, what they call the Army Corps of Engineers. I want you to look that up, Jalopy, because I know you don't know about the Army Corps of Engineers and what their job is. The Army Corps of Engineers' job, their sole job for the most part, is to direct water. That's it. That's what they do. So in the industry that I work in, I do underground line work, right? If I'm so close to the river, right? If we're so close to the river, if we're within a certain radius of the river or the lake, it's mainly the river. If the river is at a certain height, we are not allowed to dig, right? Because the Army Corps of Engineers' job is to manage water. Also, a part of their job as the Army Corps of Engineers is to direct water. And you may think this is a conspiracy, but it's not. Their job is to direct water away from the money. Where is the money in New Orleans? The money in New Orleans is in the French Quarter and the Central Business District. Uptown is a beneficiary. So all those homes on St. Charles and everything, you know what I'm saying? That's some of the highest ground in the city. For those who don't know, New Orleans is a bowl. It is a bowl. The highest part of the city is uptown, the French Quarters, the CBD. Everything else is pretty much, well, ain't no pretty much. Everything else is below sea level. Even uptown is below sea level, but it's not as severe. New Orleans is a bowl, right? So the Army Corps of Engineers is their job is to protect the money. So a lot of people who don't know this, especially if you're not a homeowner, the way in which you know that the water is coming your way if a natural disaster ever hits is if you get a letter in the mail from your insurance company. You get this letter in the mail from your insurance company and your rates just went up double. So instead of you paying let's say 1,200 a year or so for your flood insurance, now they may ask you for 3,600 a year in flood insurance. If you get that letter in the mail, and this for all those who don't know, If you get a letter in the mail from your flood insurance company and your rate went up double, triple, quadruple, that means if a natural disaster ever strikes, the water's coming your way. Just a little tidbit, Jalopy. I know you don't know that. I know you don't know that. You live in the desert. You have no reason to know that. Let's continue. You know what?
What does he?
Let's not continue. I'm done. Um, this this particular video, I really had to tone it down because I was really that pissed. I was angry after seeing this video. I thought that this take was disgusting. I I I, I was appalled at this dude thinking that he had the right to speak on the trauma that my people went through and try to relate it to something hip hop. Ain't no hip hop artist did nothing for us down here like that. None of them. You trying to relate this to hip hop? Oh, hip hop is this. Well, ain't nobody in hip hop came down to New Orleans and did anything for us, helped us rebuild. Ain't nobody did it. Wayne ended up moving to Miami. Not to say he may have done some behind the scenes, but if hip hop was so prominent, right? Why wouldn't they want to put that on full display? Hip hop helping Katrina victims. You know who we got a lot of help from? White actresses and actors. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, they built up the lower ninth ward, all those little crazy looking houses. Now they had their problems, but at least the sentiment was there. Nobody from hip hop built houses in New Orleans. So you can miss me with that. You know who else? Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock donated to a bunch of schools, my alma mater in particular. During Mardi Gras time, that those little fancy band uniforms that you see Warren Easton, my alma mater, the Fighting Eagles, the Sandra Bullock donated those uniforms. Wayne didn't do it. Baby didn't do it. Wayne and Baby didn't build no houses in the lower ninth ward. They didn't do that. Jay-Z didn't come down here and do that. None of them came down and did that. White actors and actresses. Now you can say they had an ulterior motive, right? I think that her New Orleans was probably like the first city to actually be gentrified because the word gentrification wasn't even a thing until after Hurricane Katrina. So I would bet that the Hurricane Katrina was the catalyst for gentrification, especially in New Orleans. This was disgusting, dude. This is probably like my third take. I tried to calm it down a whole lot. Uh, I think you need to take this video down because you don't get to get clicks. You shouldn't be able to get clicks and views from my trauma and try to relate it to something that's totally unrelated. You don't get that right, homie. And you straight up pissing me off. Like I was able to like overlook your little hip hop cult that you're trying to do so you can take down Drake, you know what I'm saying, to prop up Kendrick. Hey, you do you. But when you bring my city into it and you bring our trauma into it, that's where you've crossed the line, dude. You crossed the line. And if you were ever in my city, I would have to have a face-to-face, man-to-man conversation with you. And I'm keeping it PG because I'm on these people's platform and I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to follow the rules. You don't know the trauma that we went through. Regardless, regardless of the race of people. Just because the poor black people seem to suffer the tremendous burden of it, we were displaced and all of that. You don't even know the level of displacement, dude. You don't even know the like extreme drop in population that New Orleans took place in because a lot of people didn't return. You don't get to use our trauma for engagement farming and think you can get away with it without any pushback. That's insane to me. You weren't there in the aftermath to rebuild. The stench of New Orleans after Katrina is imprinted on my brain. The smell of death of thousands of people, the smell of rotten food, pets, going to your home that your father put blood, sweat, and tears in to provide me, that my father did that for me. Put blood, sweat, and tears in it to go home and see that I can see the water line where the flood waters had settled on it. And I had to go home to that. Seeing my class ring that I had just recently got 2 years prior and seeing that all messed up and tarnished. My Letterman jacket, all of this, all of these memories I had to throw away. My childhood was washed away during Hurricane Katrina. And it didn't even start there. I had to witness my mom crying because on the news the we saw the street sign that they saw our street sign and the water was right underneath it. And my mom knew for a fact that her home was gone, that she had to do that. She had to rebuild. You don't know the trauma of going back to rebuild and being in a FEMA trailer that reeked of formaldehyde. Don't use my trauma for clicks and views, dude. That's a good way. Let me stop. Look, this video, I'm not gonna even edit this like I've been doing on my last couple of videos. I'm being pretty good at that. I'm getting pretty good at the editing. I'm not gonna even edit it like that. I'm just gonna let it rock out. Uh, but this was disgusting to me. This dude is trying to create a cult and political movement around hip hop, and there's no place for this. Where is the place for fun? All in the effort to like take down Drake and prop up Kendrick. And to me, I still don't even see what's the end goal for this. Because at the end of the day, Drake and Kendrick will still be millionaires and you're still going to be broke. So what's the point? What are you doing this for? What's the end goal? What do you plan on accomplishing? Just saving hip hop from what? Hip hop needs saving from you. You're the problem. You're a killjoy. Hip hop's killjoy. You're killing and sucking all the fun out of hip hop. Kendrick is not letting you undo his zipper. That's not going to happen. You will probably never even meet this man. Hopefully you never do, because you will be insufferable if that ever happens. You disgust me, dude. And I swear I have been holding back a whole lot just so I stay in compliance with the YouTube guidelines. But look, that's all the time I have for today. Do me this huge solid, bro. Make sure you smash that like button. Share it with your friends and family. You know what I'm saying? Engage in the comment section for me. If, just drop some fleur de lis in the chat if you want to give your take. You know what I'm saying? And just remember, give maximum effort in all your endeavors. And I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace.